look, I'm a cartoon. Okay, so my webcam died not that long ago. I haven't been able to order a new one until recently, and I'm not sure if it's going to show up in time for by the time I need to get this video live, so I'm just recording it now. So yeah, we're going to be doing the little PNG tuber thing for this video, and possibly one or two more videos depending on how quickly I need to get other stuff done and how quickly that webcam shows up. Huge thank you to Food Cube, by the way, for helping me get this thing set up, which because I had no idea what I was doing. Then she was very helpful with that. So yeah, what we're doing today is well, we are celebrating the channel hitting 9,000 subscribers. You know, continuing the proud tradition of this channel of celebrating the subscriber number hitting stupid internet meme numbers, because we are now over 9,000. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z number. But yeah, so I usually do something kind of silly with these, and today we are going to be doing a sort of how far we've come video for Star Trek Online specifically, because we've been getting so many revamped ship models lately. I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through some of the other ship models from the past that have gotten revamps and compare them to how those ships looked earlier in the game. Also, I have codes to give away, so be sure to stay tuned to the end to find out about those. Mad Dog Mikey gave me the idea for this video. He proposed it as a Smash or Pass video for old ship models, and I really didn't know how I was going to do that as a Smash or Pass video, and I kind of liked the idea of just kind of going back and looking at these old ship models, because like here is the Constitution refit. Like this is what it looks like nowadays. It's very pretty, very well detailed, but this is what it used to look like. This is, I'm pretty sure this is the launch day model, which side note, huge thank you to Thomas Maroney for sending me a bunch of these images, because yeah, it was harder than I thought it would be to track down some of these old images or some of these old models online, and yeah, he was a huge help in getting me a bunch of these, so thank you again, Thomas. But yeah, yeah, this is what the refit Constitution used to look like. One interesting note about it is they gave it phaser strips, which I always thought was kind of an interesting thing to do for this ship in particular, you know, given that it was definitely a ship that never had phaser strips. But this was also a time when pretty much every ship in Star Trek Online was made to be looking like it was supposed to be contemporary to Star Trek Online's time period. We didn't have a lot of like TMP era aesthetic back then, or any other aesthetics that we had. The only exceptions were like the original Constitution, which was the tier 1 version, which that was really more of like a pre-order bonus than anything else, so that was kind of like a special exception. And then of course there was the refit Constitution, but of course you got to include the refit Constitution, but even then it was only a tier 2 version, and they clearly modified it to fit more into the early 25th century design aesthetic by giving it phaser strips. But yeah, the old model itself is very dated. I don't know what the heck is going on here. This weird greebling going on these windows. It's very odd, because you got to remember with these models, they basically just use the original, any one of the original 4 hull materials as like the default template, which is why it's got like the weird deflector dish going on instead of like the standard blue. Same thing with the windows. They always used standard any of the original standard windows or escape pods. All the old models were like that. But yeah, it like really shows the difference between early Stowe and modern Stowe. And even then, the refit Constitution at this point is actually kind of old, like the current model, because this was introduced, I think, in Agents of Yesteryear, which it's quite a few years old at this point, which really goes to show you how hard they were working even then to kind of you know, up the ante in terms of how some of these older ships looked. Moving on to the Galaxy class, this one got a revamp a bit later in life. In fact, this one's actually had a couple of revamps because they had to update the model a little bit when they finally introduced the saucer separation console. So they went ahead and updated a few things on that one. But this is the original model, and look how flat this thing is. Like there's no like texturing to it. It's just like flat curve, flat dome, where the captain's yacht would have been, whereas, you know, that's over here. It's way more detailed. They're missing a bunch of windows on the old model too. I noticed that when going through these images. Like, look at this outer windows out here along the edge of the saucer, and then nothing else moving into the interior. But you look up here, the outer windows up here, a bunch of escape pods. There's no escape pods on this model. I just noticed that. That's crazy. Yeah, there's so much detail missing on these, and it's just crazy to look back. It's like this is what the Galaxy class looked like at launch. That's, oh, it's weird to me. And look at the deflector. Look at that. Just plain blue right there. In fact, that looks more like the Constitution's deflector than it does the Galaxy's deflector. It wasn't until later they started adding these kind of details like here. Next is the Nebula class. Now this is more in line with because the Nebula class wasn't released at launch. It was released a few years later. The first playable version was released. God, when was it released? 2010. So that's earlier than I thought. So this is about a year and a half after Stowe's launch that they finally released the Nebula class, and yeah, that is what it looked like. So this would have been after the Galaxy class also got its first revamp. So the Galaxy class would have looked similar to this, extra windows, the little more detail around the bridge and stuff like that, a little better shape on the deflector, but still using the original hull material, so it never really quite matched up. Of course, you could always change these, but the basic templates usually started with these two. But yeah, just look at these escape pods. Look at that. Those aren't even the correct escape pods, even close to the shape of them. They're the triangular ones that you'd expect on the Sovereign class. So yeah, these are just not well selected for the template. It's just very odd. But yeah, then we got this one later on. It's like night and day with a lot of these. It's crazy. The later Nebula class revamp that we got here, this one also did a cool thing. It was where it introduced the different types of saucers, the deflector dishes, because the Nebula has gone through a couple different variations over the years in Star Trek, and for a while this was the only version in Star Trek Online, but eventually we got this version, but we also got the one with the older deflector that the Phoenix had. They also had the one that we also had the pod section that the Phoenix had too, with the more circular pod rather than the triangular one. That was later introduced to the Stowe. We also got we got this deflector dish as well as the more Galaxy style deflector dish too for the Nebula. So yeah, the Nebula got a bunch of different options for its revamp. So it's really just we went from this to a bunch of different things that looked at this level of graphics detail. It's so nice. The Defiant, man, look at the difference there. This is the Defiant at launch. The nose piece is all the wrong shape. The model is very flat and very basic. It's missing a bunch of the little color details here because this is just flat gray all over the place. It's it's missing a lot of the blue, these beige details along here. There's no lighting up. There's no lighting in these grill sections in the back. Yeah, it's just wow. It's such a difference. Voyager is in a very similar state. In fact, early in the very early days of Star Trek Online, did you know the Intrepid class's warp nacelles didn't bend when they went to warp? Those used to be static. They didn't move back in the day, and it bugged the crap out of a lot of people. More than that, the original model also had the impulse engines in the wrong place. The impulse trails used to come out of the aft torpedoes for some reason. A lot of issues with the old Intrepid model. Look at this deflector. Look at this. They managed to get the darker portion here, you give that actual dish look that the Intrepid always had, but the detail on this is so weird in comparison. In comparison to the modern one, I don't know what's going on in here. It's just okay, let's just put some designs in there and call it a day. It's they didn't even look that hard at this. It's such a difference. The Akira class. This is another one that's gone through a couple of revamps over the years, because the Akira got one but in between these that I don't have images of. So this is I'm pretty sure this is the original launch version of the Akira, and again, it's such a difference. They got a decent look at the shape of the Akira, which is surprising given how weird the Akira is, but look at they got it so much better here. They got the I don't know what this is, those reinforced sections on the hull, much right into the detail of the model, which are just not present at all on the original. Also gave it much more detail on the deflector dish too, because you got to remember with this revamped Akira class, you got to remember that this is a unique hull material to the Akira class. This is an Akira class hull material, whereas again, this is just one of the original 4 hull materials. So it's night and day, and it's weird how some of these templates are using the windows, because now this one's using the square escape pods, when you would think it would be using like the triangular ones that we've seen on some of these other models, and you would think this one would be using the square ones because that's what Voyager had. Voyager had the little square escape pod hatches, but it's using the triangular ones. A lot of weird mismatching in the windows. But I guess they were going more for detail of like the actual windows themselves rather than the escape pods, but still, it's odd. The Sovereign, this one, big difference between the two with the original and the modern version. Look at just the lack of detail here along the, like, you know, this layering along the saucer. Like you could tell they tried to emulate this look, but man, it's rough. You know, of course it's rough because, you know, this was like way early days of the game, you know, back in like 2009. So it's a huge difference, but wow, just looking at the two together is just absolutely crazy. Look at that. I forgot that the original Sovereign had the name and registry in the wrong spot. Look at that. That's funny. Another thing about the old version, look at the deflector dish is blue because the Sovereign is weird, and they gave it a gold deflector dish, which was, you know, a bit unusual for the time period. At this point, usually, you know, the 2370s, pretty much every ship had a blue deflector dish, but you know, they gave the Sovereign class a gold one, and then Stowe wasn't able to replicate that because, again, they're still at this point we're still just using the original four hull materials, which none of which featured a gold deflector dish. That was added on later, but it was like a unique thing to the Sovereign. So then every single variant of the Sovereign now had a gold deflector dish, no matter what hull material you were using. These days, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think this is just unique to this hull material, the Sovereign hull materials. But you can't get rid of the glow on the thing too. But yeah, I don't know why you'd want to. It's so much better looking this way. Keeping in the same vein of the Sovereign, here is the Excalibur class. Now, this is a Stowe original ship. This is meant to be a variant of the Constitution. Keep in mind, this was a launch era ship as well. This thing was on the cover art of Star Trek Online. This thing was on the box itself, and not only was it not an endgame ship, but it looked like this. It looked so bland. I mean, I always did like the nacelles on this thing, though. It was kind of cool to see these like Sovereign style nacelles, and I saw a lot of people like running these on like the normal Constitution refit skin back in the day. So you just like have the Connie refit, and then through the next gen, these post next gen style nacelles on it, and then because it already had phaser strips, it was like, all right, we got a 25th century, or I guess 24th century Constitution class without going through like a whole shape change along with it. But now these days, this ship looks gorgeous now. This absolutely looks like something you would see like flying alongside with the Sovereign class, and that's kind of what I really like about this nowadays, because it's so fits in with the era. That's one of the things I love that Star Trek Online's been doing with these revamps with, like, you know, their original ships. They're taking them from just looking like some generic Starfleet ship that could fit in from whenever kind of era. You know, again, this was like way before Star Trek Online had really defined its own design language for ships. So basically, this was one of the Stowe era ships, but now they've revamped it to a, you know, late 24th century ship, and it fits so much better. And I love this. And they're doing this with other ships too. I mean, we'll see a few more of them in this video. I love it so much. It looks so much better. The Luna class. Again, kind of like with the Akira, you know, this one the original one lacked a lot of like this like reinforced plating, you know, that you see along the hull, you know, here and here. A lot of detail on like the bridge layering up here that's just not here at all. It's just, wow. They improved the shape on the pod section too. I'm kind of impressed that they actually managed to keep this on the original model, though, the little blowy glue section at the top. Of course, it's a lot better detailed nowadays, but yeah, this, oh man, it's like night and day. Oh, and look at these like inlays into the model where the escape pods go. Like none of that layering is there. This is just so flat, and it's, like, the amount of detail that Star Trek Online can put into a ship these days is just kind of insane when you go back and look at the old ones. Like it's you know, going from there to here, it's kind of crazy. Just like it's I don't know. I am stumbling over words clearly, but it boggles my brain to think that this is how it started and this is where it's now. Oh, this one's an even crazier transformation. The Shikar class. This is probably the most significant revamp that Star Trek Online has ever done, because this kind of set the precedent for them revamping their old original ships into ships that would better fit into certain areas in Star Trek Online's time period. Because again, this was just, the Shikar was originally just a random ship that was meant to be kind of in Star Trek Online's time period, way back before they had really nailed down their design language, because, they didn't really start making their own aesthetic for ships until the Enterprise F came along. So this was before that. It looks so jank. It looks so weird. It's just like you really struggle to find like the lineage here. I mean, like obviously it's vaguely reminiscent of the Miranda class, but that's about it. All these like extra all these extra bits, the weird jagged lines, the big wide open nacelle pylons. We've never seen warp nacelles that ever looked like this before, but then they went ahead and revamped it into this beauty right here. This TNG-ified-esque Miranda class. They gave it the Galaxy style deflector dish, but kind of squished down so it better fits into this pod section. The Galaxy style saucer section, but they made it so it looks very much its own too. Instead of being the really wide oval, it's more circular shaped. And then this back section, kind of vaguely reminiscent of the Soyuz class because of all the shuttle bays in the back. And they kept the freaking loop here too, which I thought was a really cool detail as a kind of to recognize the original one too. Also these bulging sections in the saucer here, these over here, they kept these here, but they turned them into shuttle bays, which I thought was really cool. Another Stowe original that's very different nowadays, the Aurora class, because again, this is another one, weird aesthetic designs that are, you kind of assume, okay, I guess this is Starfleet design now, but there's no linkage between this and this. It's just okay, I guess that's the same time period, I guess, but it doesn't really look all that similar to each other. Now this thing looks like it's from the TMP era, which that's so cool. I love that so much, because it really takes a lot of thought to turn this into this. I know there are a couple people who do miss these old nacelle pylons. They're really far back reaching, but a lot of empty space on them, which I admit is kind of an interesting look. But that wouldn't work for the TMP era, and I like this better. This looks so much better. Looks so much better. I love it. Another thing I really like about this revamped model was what they did with the deflector dish. They made it wider, so it's not just the same TMP era star drive you see on the Constitution. They just modified it just enough. It's such a simple. It's such a simple modification that it goes a long way to really separate it from the old Constitution, and I really like that. The Excelsior. This is another one that wasn't released in the original release of the game. This was released a year or two later. I think this was a little bit around the same time that the Nebula would have been introduced. So it would have been mid to late 2010, I think, possibly a little later. But yeah, it's again, there's just using the same basic hull materials, same window patterns, and it just goes from this to this. Now, admittedly, I do think this version has held up fairly well-ish, kind of. If you kind of look at it when you're, if I took my glasses off, I feel like this one would still look pretty okay. But it's you look at all the details between the two of them. It's so much better. One thing I like the deflector dish on this one, on the old version, actually looks like it's supposed to be for the Excelsior. That actually fits pretty well. But yeah, beyond that, it's so different. Yeah, this is so much better. Oh, and here it is, the Odyssey class, my personal favorite. And yeah, this thing has gone through quite the transformation over the years. Yeah, this you look at this and it's just there's. Again, this is one that wasn't introduced at the start of the game, obviously, because there was the whole Design the Next Enterprise competition. But yeah, there's just so much detail that the original one lacks. Now, this is another one that has actually been revamped more than once, because now this is the original model that was released when the Enterprise F was first released into the game. So it's a bit flatter. It lacks a little bit of detail that was later introduced. But yeah, it was later revamped in 2016 when the T6 versions of the Odysseys were introduced. They wanted to modify this model in order to make it more compatible with the Yorktown Sojourner and Endeavor when they were released, because they all had to kit bash together. I actually found this post on the Star Trek Starships Reddit, posted by Andy Rajan Puro. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but yeah, this guy posted a really great comparison between the three different models of the Odyssey class. So like, here is the original one down here. This one was the first revamp that was made when the T6 versions were introduced, and this is the current model, and it really gives you an idea of the differences between the three, but particularly the differences between these two, because I mean, this one is, the differences are much more obvious. Like here, this is the original. The later one moved the Delta logo more forward, added some greebling back here, added some extra phaser strips, because originally the original model only had these along the side, whereas so it like lacked like any capability of forward phasers, which always bugged me back in the day. So I was really glad when they added these, and I was even more glad when they just changed it to this one on the revamp, the modern revamp, because I like that better. I think that's a better look for the Odyssey. They also moved the position of what are basically the fleet logos in Star Trek Online. So they used to be down here, they moved them up here, and then on the revamp they put them but they put it like up there in the center, which again is a much better look in my opinion. The underside also shows good amount of difference here. Like the revamp just had, this is like I think it's a planetary sensor array or something like that. They added like these little guard sections on the first revamp, and then they moved it further forward on the current model and made room for a little captain's yacht behind it. And here's a side profile, not much different there. They added some extra I guess molding or something like that along the nacelles. Oh, I just noticed the original one didn't have a phaser array along the pylon. That's interesting. And then the back section, one of the biggest differences on the current model is the partitions on the main shuttle bay. Which not only that, but there's also another shuttle bay added between the necks. But yeah, this was a big change for the shuttle bay, the main shuttle bay at least. I've always wondered if Thomas Maroney purposely added these in order to like finally kill any like speculation that a Defiant class could fit inside the shuttle bay, because people have talked about that a lot, and Thomas has said no, the Defiant is still too big in order to fit inside the shuttle bay, but people still kept asking for Defiant class pets for the Odyssey. So I wonder if he did this to finally kill all of that altogether. Of course, then they made the Lexington, which just has a big hangar bay pod sitting over the top of it, which, again, you could still speculate on whether or not a Defiant could fit in there. Probably not, but people are still going to ask for it. But yeah, quite the difference between the old Odyssey and the current Odyssey. God, look at this. Like it's still funny to me that this one completely lacks that greebling altogether. Then they added the greebling, then they took it away and changed it to these blue glowing bits, which looks so much better. It's so pretty. I love it. Yeah, what a difference. Here's another one with the in a similar vein, the Exeter class. This was released a bit after the Odyssey. This was meant to be sort of a Odyssey era version of the Constitution. This is when Star Trek Online was really starting to get into what their design language was going to be, which is, this was the Type 6 hull material, which would later get revamped into the Odyssey hull material. Yeah, look at this. This is such a wonderful difference between the two. Like there's no detail in these phaser arrays, whereas nowadays you get this nice, this nice little effect, so you can kind of see like, there's a thing there, not just, this weird line. They also added a second shuttle bay up here, which I thought was kind of cool. That's not on the original model, I think. Which, yeah, that's just a neat detail, a way to make use of all this space. Because, yeah, it's definitely not there because this area is just flat up here. So just kind of a cool way to kind of modify this, the dome piece a bit to make just seem more functional and not just be a complete, not just to be completely the same as all the others too. So it makes a bit more difference between the different models. Yeah, this is such a pretty ship. I also really like how, the original one that just puts the registry number up here, the revamp. They moved it back, made it smaller, but also added the name on the lower side of the saucer too. Kind of like in the a little bit like the original Constitution. The original just had the registry numbers on each side, but this one they kept the name there, but also kept the registry number too. So it's a little extra than the original, but I like it. This. The detail around the deflector down here, it's so pretty. I've always liked this model, but yeah, they really got the glow up it really deserved. It's a similar story with the Avenger too. This one not nearly as old as as a lot of the ones on this list. Like you can see, this one's held up fairly well over the years, despite still using the old Type 6 hull. It's got some decent detail around the model. You got some little details around the nacelles like this. The bridge dome is reasonably well detailed. You got these cool glowy effects around here. You got all these cannons in the front section, which those were kept on the revamped model, but they added so much extra stuff, more detail around the bridge layer, these running lights along the side. Those are here on the original model, but now they're actually got their own little moldings in there, so it actually sticks in there. Added little transporter arrays, more detail on the RCS thrusters, which is one thing I really like about the newer hull materials, the 7A and the Odyssey hull materials. They actually do some really nice detail with the RCS thrusters rather than just making them these brown rectangles that don't really seem to do anything. Yeah, you actually see some. You can, because you see these little exhaust ports, you can kind of get an idea of how these things actually work, which I thought was cool. Yeah, such a difference. Actually, one of my favorite things about the Avenger revamp is this lower layered section down here, because the old one, it's so flat. It's just nothing here. It's just flat with a little sensor dome, kind of like the Odyssey has. But they completely redid this whole bottom section to add so much more detail. There's whatever these things are. I don't know what they are. Some kind of hatches or some sort of, I don't know, something, but it looks like they could be neat. More detail along the sensor dome. Really nice. Added some more escape pods. This is I love it. I love it so much. Now, speaking of glow-ups, definitely one of the most recent additions to the game, or rather reintroductions to the game, the Typhoon class. We all know about this one by now, because a lot of you are still unlocking it in the current event and on PC. Console, you guys will have this probably in a month or so. Yeah, what a difference there was between these two, between this one and the original. Because this is the original. This is the current version. That's the original. Look, it looks like a potato. It really does. They completely changed the pylons. The nacelles are totally. I never liked these double nacelles on the original. I always thought they looked so overdone yet bland at the same time. It was very odd. It's okay, you see these boring nacelles? Now there's two boring nacelles on the same pylon. That makes it more interesting, right? Right? That's how that felt. And yeah, but then they go ahead and make it more Andorian stylized, because giving it the lore that the Typhoon was designed in an Andorian shipyard. It works so much better. It looks so much prettier. I love this so much. And it's so nice to see when old stuff like this can get this treatment. It's so nice. And then they went ahead and did it again with the Jupiter too. This one's also gotten a revamp. This is not the original model. This is the original model, which big difference there. I never liked this thing. Look at this thing. It looks like something I would have drawn at the age of 8. And then someone made a 3D model out of that. That's what this is. It's just this big, oddly shaped rectangle with these antenna nacelles sticking out of it. It's so bland. I've never liked this thing. I'm still not a huge fan of the current Jupiter as it is. I've said many times that it looks like a bloated Battlestar Galactica having an identity crisis, but the revamp on it is really nice. That in its current state, I love all the added little shuttle bay doors to really emphasize the size of this thing. I still do like these warp nacelles. Not these warp nacelles. The fact that the two sets aren't parallel drives me freaking nuts. But the top ones look cool. But another really cool thing that they did with the Jupiter revamp. You can add auxiliary craft into the port and starboard bays. If you go into the ship tailor, you can add these in there. There are different variants too. You can add like, this variant, one that's like all fighters, and one that's older fighters, older shuttles too. One that's like a Danube and some Type 7s and stuff like that. But yeah, you got some options there depending on kind of what style you want to go with. But that's such a cool, genuinely, this is like one of the coolest things I've seen them do with ship customization in a while. And I love it, but at the same time, I really wish they would do this on a ship that I actually like, because like there's the Shikar that's got open shuttle bays on the front. There's the Lexington, it's got that whole pod section on the tops. Lexington and Monitor. There's also the Discovery, or rather the Crossfield class. You can modify that to have an open shuttle bay. You can put some actual shuttles in there. That would be really cool. But yeah, genuinely, this is really cool. And like I said, not a huge fan of the Jupiter, but I respect the level of detail that they put into this thing. It's really nice. But yeah, it's hell of a change from this thing. Ugh. The Chimera. This is another one that is quite different nowadays. Because I mean, look at this thing. This is the old veteran hull material, and it's so different from the other hull materials. It looked really cool back in the day, but nowadays it really just shows its age. The glowing seams on it were really cool, but like the Aztecing along that's like the patterning on the hull, it's so sloppy looking nowadays. It's really odd. You can tell this was designed to be kind of thrown onto any ship, and that's why it kind of looks a little messy in my opinion, I think. Yeah, I've always thought it would be interesting if they decided to go back and revamp this hull texture. But at the same time, then they'd have to make sure it works on pretty much every ship, and that sounds exhausting. Like, so I could see why they didn't do it. I always found it amusing that of all the hull materials for the revamp, they chose the California class hull material. I always thought that was funny because it's the freaking California class, but now it's also the Chimera class hull material, which is awesome because it's the Chimera. This ship is awesome. I really wish we get a revamp so we could get one that had stats that reflected how awesome this ship is. But at least it looks pretty in its current state. Yeah, it's so pretty. I love this. I really like this ship. Don't worry, it's not going to be all fed ships. Here we've got the Klingon Bird of Prey. Again, look at this original model. The hull texture is so rough. Like, the model is really flat and bland, but the texture is so noisy. Look at all this all around the wings. Ooh, it's a mess in there. Same thing with this section of the hull too. Really, look how clean this is by comparison. Like, yeah, they always had like a lot of color detail in the wings, but it's actually like, painted in detail on this model, whereas in here it's just kind of like a slapped on 3D hull texture. Ooh, you can see that on the bottom too. It's just like, ugh. It's not quite as bad on the bottom, but it's bad. And then, of course, there's the torpedo launcher, which looks more like a main deflector for some reason. But, of course, that's because in the game, this hardpoint was used as both the torpedo launcher and the deflector for whatever reason. Probably because there's, like, no identifiable deflector dish on the Bird of Prey, or most Klingon ships, really. So I guess they kind of had to do that. Or at least they felt they had to do that for a while, but such a difference. Like, it actually looks like a torpedo tube. This actually, you zoom into that actually looks like the torpedo tube you saw in Star Trek 6. It looks so cool. It's so much nicer. It's really nice to see when they go back to these older models and just completely redo them so they actually look more authentic to what we see in the shows and movies. Or, when they go back to do their original models too, because this one is the Bortosk, which is, it's the Klingon version of the Odyssey, and it's their flagship. So it was really nice that they were finally able to go back and revamp this thing as well. Because while I do think that this hull material for the Klingons has held up somewhat well over the years, it is still kind of noisy by comparison. Yeah, it's not bad, but you could still see a lot of like these details that have aged in here. I also always hated these escape pods on here. They look more like a Federation ship's escape pods from back in the day rather than a Klingon ship's, and I was really glad that they changed those on the templates to have more interesting pods and windows. Yeah, it's such a difference. Like, look at this compared to this. Like, it's so much cleaner. It's so nice. I love it so much. I've been saying that a lot, I know, but it's true. These revamps are so cool to see, especially when you go back and look at the original models. It really makes you appreciate all the work they've gone into making these look, up to date for the current state of the game. And I hate to sound greedy. I wish they had more time to do stuff like this, because I would love to see this treatment given to something like the Moog. Here we got some Romulan love, the Tavaro class bird of prey, or warbird, whatever you want to call it. Technically, this was like the Romulan bird of prey from Star Trek Enterprise, but they call it they're all warbirds in Star Trek Online for whatever reason. But yeah, look at this old hull material. Look how, but it's so bland looking. Like they didn't even give it like a proper shade of green. It looks so faded. It's so whited out, and like the difference. I know I've been saying the difference is night and day a lot in these videos, but you really see that in this. Like, holy crap. Like, look at this. Like, they got a decent amount of detail here, because keep in mind this model was introduced in Legacy of Romulus, so that would have been around 2012, but this is so much better. This is so much better. Man, it's crazy to think how these are the same ship, but this is what it's supposed to look like, and it's so much better. Here's another example, the Tadaridex. Again, using the same hull material as the original version of the Tavaro. Yeah, so bland, so whited out, so lacking in actual color on the model. It's like, how Romulans are green, how Romulan ships are always green? Let's make them less green. Like, I don't know what the thinking there was. It's so bizarre to me, just looking at them, then to now, because look at this. That's a warbird. That is a Tadaridex class warbird. That is what that should have looked like. Oh, it's so much better looking. The actual proper shade of green on the hull. Some actual wonderful detail along the hull section. I love the wing pattern along the hull section for the Tadaridex. I always loved this, and it's so much. It's done so much better here than it ever was here. It's so lacking on here. It really that's kind of what these older models kind of leave you looking at. They kind of leave you feel like you're wanting more, and these revamps really are giving it. They really are giving the more that these models needed, and it's such an improvement. I really love this. I know I've been saying that a lot, but I really do. It's so nice to see. I love it. So do you guys want to see something crazy? Because this is not the first model that there was of the Tadaridex. This is just the first model of the Tadaridex when it was made into a playable ship, but it wasn't always a playable ship. Because before Legacy of Romulus, this is what it looked like. Oh my god. Like, look at this thing. Look how bulbous and round it is. How low poly it is. Like, oh my god. When I first found this picture, I was taken aback a little bit, because like, look at this thing. It is, like, yeah, in their defense though, this was not designed to be like the playable model. This was never meant to be a playable ship when this model was made. That's why they remade it beforehand. So while I did talk some crap about this one, it was worse before. But yeah, it's crazy to think that this used to be the Tadaridex model to me. Like, look at it. Look how, like, there's like no detail on the backside of this. Along like the spine section, there's like nothing there. It's just completely round. It's crazy. Now, before we wrap up, there is one last thing to announce. Not only have we hit 9,000 subscribers on the channel as of this going live, but I generally like to celebrate these things with a giveaway. So I've got giveaway codes for the Heritage Starship Bundle. This is the bundle that includes the Premonition Temporal Spearhead, the Typhon Command Escort Carrier, and the Achilles Miracle Worker Destroyer. These are fantastic ships, originally all introduced from different Star Trek games. The Premonition was originally from Star Trek Armada, the Typhon from Star Trek Invasion, and the Achilles from Star Trek Deep Space Nine Dominion Wars. They have all been, their models have all been remade and updated for modern standards, and they are now playable ships within Star Trek Online. You can buy them individually, but or you can get them all together in the Heritage Starship Bundle, which is what I am going to be giving away for this giveaway. I've got 3 codes for all 3 platforms, so 3 for PC, 3 for Xbox, and 3 for PlayStation. In order to enter this giveaway, all you have to do is go to the Continuum Discord, which will be linked down below in the pinned comment. Just find the giveaways channel right here. Just go to there, and then you will find the giveaway. There will be a little icon that actually looks like this. It'll be like more along here though, so don't actually click the emote. Click the button that'll be down here. Then you will be entered to. Then you will be entered into the giveaway. If you're unsure that you're entered into the giveaway, click the party horn again. It'll give you a prompt and ask you, do you want to leave the giveaway? You won't actually leave it until you've actually confirmed it. So yeah, if you're ever unsure, just, you can confirm it by clicking again. If it asks you to leave, then you're entered. If, just make sure you don't actually leave. So another thing I do want to note, guys, when you're entering these giveaways, make sure you enter the correct one for your platform, because I've done these before where I have the same code for, I have the same things for multiple different platforms, and every single time, one of the winners for one of the console giveaways is a PC player, and then I have to re-roll the giveaway, and it's a huge pain in the butt for me. So guys, please be mindful which one you're entering. So yeah, 3 Heritage Starship bundles across all 3 platforms. Just enter through the Discord, like I said. Winners will be randomly selected by the giveaway bot, and then I will contact the winners via Discord direct message. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. Thank you all so much for sticking with me this long. We've hit 9,000 subscribers on the channel. That is absolutely amazing. I could never have gotten this far without all of you, and I'm so very appreciative to all of you for that. Thank you so much. Again, good luck to all of you entering the giveaway. I know there's been a lot of hype around the Heritage Starship bundle. These are all fantastic ships. They look gorgeous, and they're fun, a ton of fun to play, and I'm sure the people who win these bundles are going to be absolutely thrilled with these ships. But yeah, be sure to let me know down in the comments what you thought of these older ship models, because I know some of them are quite different from their current state in the game. So yeah, let me know what you thought down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. If you are ever looking to further support the channel, you can hit that join button to become a member, or you can find the link to the merch store down below. Or if you're ever shopping on the Epic Game Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. Any of these really help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Either way though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.